that is on the stage that will be engaging with your good selves, the members of the media invited today. It must again be readjusted for the speaker when she comes. Wish to introduce the Speaker of the National Assembly, Mayor Nosivuyo Mapisa Ngukula, the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Ntate Amos Masondo, the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Ntate Lechisa Zenodi, the Deputy Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, Mayor Sylvia Lucas, the Secretary to Parliament, Ntate Olile George. I also wish to recognize the speakers of the various legislatures, provincial legislatures, who are in attendance, who were present for the Speakers Forum that preceded this press conference. Thank you very much. I wish to just indicate that the presiding officers have called you here to give you a briefing just a day before the BRICS Parliamentary Forum on the content, the state of readiness of hosting the BRICS Summit, and how the next 2 days, the 27th and the 28th, will unfold with regard to this important event that is historically being held in South Africa and hosted by the South African Parliament. So without any waste of time, I'm going to invite the Speaker of the National Assembly to present the statement on behalf of the presiding officers, and then we will.
Let me start by thanking all members of the media for attending this media launch of the BRICS Parliamentary Forum that is taking place tomorrow, the 27th and 28th of September 2023, here at the Emperor's Palace, Johannesburg. Before we go into the substance of this briefing, allow us on behalf of Parliament to extend our deepest condolences to the Mandela family and the entire nation on the sad passing of a remarkable activist and granddaughter of Nelson Mandela and Winnie Madikizela Mandela, Zoleka Mandela. Her passing yesterday, a day before the birthday of her beloved grandmother, Winnie Madikizela Mandela, is a poignant reminder of the interwoven legacies representing a family's enduring commitment to justice, equality, and freedom. Zoleka was not only the granddaughter of the two iconic figures in South Africa's history, but also a passionate advocate for change in her own right. As a writer, activist, and survivor, she fearlessly shared her personal battles, including her struggles with addiction and her courageous fight against breast cancer. Her willingness to speak openly about her challenges inspired many and showcased the strength that ran through her veins. Today, then, as we remember her, we also pay tribute to her grandmother, Winnie Madikizela Mandela, who played a pivotal role in the liberation and service to South Africa. Her influence on Zoleka's life, both as a grandmother and as a source of inspiration, continued to shape the trajectory of her granddaughter's activism and served as a testament to the enduring power of family bonds and the indomitable spirit of those who fight for justice. In this moment of profound loss, let us come together as a nation and honor Zoleka Mandela's memory, reflect on the indomitable spirit of her family. Our thoughts and prayers are with the Mandela family during this difficult time. May both Zoleka, her mother Zinzi, and Winnie Madikizela Mandela, the grandmother, rest in eternal peace. Honorable ladies and gentlemen, our purpose is to introduce you to the purpose of BRICS Parliamentary Forum. This is a structure made up of leaders of legislative organs of BRICS, namely Brazil, Russia, China, India, South Africa. It is a symbol of cooperation and proof of our shared commitment to strengthening diplomatic ties and fostering cooperation in many fronts. The primary purpose of the BRICS Parliamentary Forum Assembly is to reinforce and cultivate relationships at the highest levels of parliamentary chambers, committees, and groups of parliamentarians. Through inter-parliamentary exchanges and expert consultations, it aims to enhance cooperation and increase collective impact. The theme of our assembly this year is harnessing multilateralism and parliamentary diplomacy to deepen BRICS and Africa partnership for accelerated implementation of the Africa Trade-Free Agreement. The 9th BRICS Parliamentary Forum's Assembly current theme is consistent with the recent Heads of State Summit held in Johannesburg last month. South Africa was the BRICS chair that hosted the 15th Heads of State Summit. Parliament has the dual role of facilitating meaningful interactions, promoting economic prosperity, and advancing strategic partnerships that transcend borders. Our focus on the alignment of the theme demonstrates our steadfast dedication to promoting a more inclusive, integrated, and prosperous Africa. This theme also highlights the significance of Africa in South Africa's foreign policy, emphasizing the interconnectedness of our national interests with Africa's stability, unity, and prosperity. The BRICS nations have a valuable opportunity to lead in promoting change and shaping a new global order while preserving multilateralism as the foundation for international relations. Parliaments, which consists of representatives from diverse political parties and ideologies, work on behalf of their country's citizens. By participating in groups such as the BRICS Parliamentary Forum, parliaments can help ensure that the aspirations and desires of their people are met. South Africa's membership in BRICS has been beneficial as it allows us to have a united voice in promoting a world order based on mutual respect and equal sovereignty amongst nations. Being a part of BRICS is essential for South Africa as it offers concrete advantages in areas such as research, innovation, energy, health, and education cooperation. Hosting the BRICS Summit presents an opportunity for South Africa to gain benefits as it increases South Africa's involvement in global matters, especially when it comes to reforming multilateral institutions. The platforms created by BRICS allow for the exchange of best practices, knowledge and expertise, including the use of innovative technologies to accelerate the country's industrialization in line with the Fourth Industrial Revolution goals. Additionally, BRICS serves as a platform for sharing and learning and is receptive to new ideas and directions. The summit aimed to find solutions for a sustainable energy transition that can benefit people's lives and livelihoods, including those in industries like mining. Now, alignment with the 15th BRICS Summit. Creating synergies between the 15th BRICS Summit and the 9th BRICS Parliamentary Forum themes not only assists with clear communication of South Africa's common position and also cooperation vision during the BRICS presidency, but will also ensure continuity and consistency in the work of BRICS. Through the BRICS Parliamentary Forum, member parliaments have a critical role of overseeing legislative actions and monitoring executive branch decisions. To effectively carry out this responsibility, lawmakers scrutinize the outcomes of the Heads of State Summit to allow them to keep track of the implementation decisions and ensure they benefit the citizens of their respective countries. Adhering to the principle of chairmanship rotation, South Africa took from China the chairmanship from the 1st of January 2023. Now, what is the format of the BRICS Parliamentary Forum Summit Assembly? Since the inaugural BRICS PF meeting, which was held in Moscow, Russia in 2015, the forum's meetings have been held parallel to the BRICS Heads of State Summit or on the sidelines of the Inter-Parliamentary Union meetings. As much as this was convenient and saved time and resources, it did not give the BRICS Parliamentary Forum the necessary recognition it deserves. This also diminished its stature as an equally important structure within the BRICS family. That is why we deemed it fit to hold this meeting separately from other meetings in order to give it the significance it deserves, guided by the principles of separation of powers. The Assembly meeting starts tomorrow, the 27th of September, with a keynote address by the Speaker of the National Assembly of Parliament of the Republic of South Africa, and a debate on the outcomes of the 15th BRICS Summit Heads of State. Also expected to take place on the second day, the 28th of September, is the signing of a memorandum of understanding amongst the countries following the breakaway commissions to discuss the following: BRICS and Africa partnership, BRICS energy issues, climate change and legislative mobilization in BRICS countries, and BRICS peace and security. Over 250 delegates are anticipated to attend the Assembly, with several critical outcomes expected, including the formal establishment of the BRICS Parliamentary Forum through the signing of a memorandum of understanding, the issuance of the declaration or outcome document outlining our shared vision, a decision on establishing the BRICS Parliamentary Forum Secretariat, and most importantly, a strengthened BRICS identity with increased people-to-people exchanges. We've received confirmation that all BRICS member nations, including the new prospective members in the BRICS Plus, will be participating at this BRICS Parliamentary Forum. And these will include the Republic of Brazil, Russian Federation, Republic of India, People's Republic of China. Amongst the invited dignitaries, we can also confirm the attendance of the former Speaker of the National Assembly, Ms. Bimbete, and then His Excellency, Dr. Ali Gebali, Speaker of the Egyptian House of Representatives, His Excellency, Mr. Mohammed Baga, President of Majlis Shorai Islami of the Islamic Republic of Iran, Honorable Esperanza Francisco Nuane Bayas, Speaker of the National Assembly, Parliament of Mozambique, the Honorable Professor Peter Kachavivi, MP, Speaker of the National Assembly, Parliament of Namibia, His Excellency Gobash, Speaker of Majlis Watani Ittihadi of the United Arab Emirates, and Councillor Ntabiseng Chivenga, the Speaker of the City of Ekurhuleni Metropolitan Municipality. Public participation is an essential part of the business of Parliament, and South Africans will be able to follow the proceedings live on a wide range of media platforms, including Parliament's own multimedia and television platforms, as well as mainstream media. We have received over 120 requests for accreditation from members of the media who are interested in covering the BRICS Parliamentary Forum. Media personnel are encouraged to collect their accreditation tags at the Southern Sun O.R. Tambo International Airport grounds, Jones Road, Johannesburg. As of course, no tags will be handed out tomorrow at the Emperor's Palace during the event. We would like to thank the City of Ekurhuleni for hosting us and welcoming us to their beautiful city. We say thank you, Councillor Ntabiseng Chivenga, for ukusivulela amasango. We wish to have a productive and successful meeting. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for bringing clarity to an important global question. I am rising to say that the conference as called, Madam Speaker referred to this, is for BRICS members of Parliament. Let me start here. We can't allow it to be the squeaky wheel that gets the oil. All the wheels must get the oil so that the machinery operates appropriately, as a result of which members of Parliament will be focusing on discussing BRICS and the Africa Partnership. It's an important regional integration strategy for the African continent, and the energy crisis that is partly also occasioned by the conflict Madam Speaker spoke with clarity on. And thirdly, the legislative mobilization in African countries to combat climate crisis. Its impact are all over us. In our own country, the floods, the fires are part of the climate impact. And so that's the commissions, when they report back, it will be on those issues, as well, finally, as well as peace and security. It's not just the figural one, especially the Ukraine-Russia issue, but also in the continent. There are flare-ups that relates to problems of peace and security. West Africa in the continent, for example, is the one confronting with the biggest impact of crisis, and therefore, to the extent that these matters of peace and security can be contributed to by the collective of BRICS countries here, so it's going to be an important issue, so that we would like to suggest that let's hear what members of parliament, including those who are going to be formally joining later, say about what we have on the table after a round-robin discussion of the agenda. That's going to be the focus of the presentations. Like I said, it can't be the squeaky wheel only that gets the oil. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
I believe that the statement is being distributed to the media present here, and it will also be sent electronically on the WhatsApp group and also by email. Are there any questions from the members of the media? Sophie, please pass the roving mic.
Thank you so much. Sophie Mukwena from the SABC. Madam Speaker, in relation to issues that are likely going to dominate the discussions, can you take us through in terms of current global issues that are likely going to dominate the discussions? I know that in relation to the World Parliamentary Forum, the last time we spoke, you spoke about a team of members of parliament who were appointed or were requested by that forum, the global forum, to look at the war in Ukraine. And you were supposed to report back in terms of a follow-up meeting that was supposed to happen before even the BRICS summit. In relation to this BRICS Parliamentary Forum, are we likely going to see that issue being discussed? And how far is that process of the World Parliamentary Forum in relation to intervention with the aim of bringing the warring factions to the negotiating table?
Thank you very much. Any other question? Kaya?
Hi, good day. It's Kyle Kumalo here from SABC News. Maybe just to get a sense from you, Madam Speaker, the role of Parliament, like you said, with the outcomes of the 15th BRICS Summit. What should the parliaments do in terms of making sure that the executive, they're held accountable in terms of making sure that we do see the very all-important decisions, being implemented in terms of the multipolar world? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other question? I don't see any other question, Speaker. It's the role of Parliament in the multipolar world, and also the work of the Inter-Parliamentary Union Task Force, which you are a member of, regarding Ukraine and Russia matter.
Thank you very much. I need to first correct something, Muloto, which is that the Deputy President will be opening the summit, the Parliamentary Forum tomorrow. The first question is, okay, let me start with the role of Parliament. You know that our role in the main is to develop legislation, it is to exercise oversight, but also to ensure that there is public participation in everything which legislatures do. So obviously, one of the key issues which will be discussed tomorrow is how then, as Parliament, do we exercise effective, not just oversight, effective oversight? How do we ensure that our pieces of legislation are pieces of legislation which are progressing, which are advancing and enhancing democracies in the world? Now, I mentioned earlier on that there are decisions, obviously, which were taken by the heads of state. One of the things we do, and we have an obligation to do as members of Parliament, is to scrutinize the decisions taken by heads of state and follow up to see whether, in fact, these decisions which they take year in, year out are in fact implemented, and whether the decisions are in fact in the interests of the people of the countries they represent. I'm sure you are aware that there are several issues. There's a whole lot of things which are impacting on the different geopolitical groups. As Sophie raised earlier on, the issue of the war in Ukraine. I can't imagine that they would have met and not discussed that particular issue. However, I do want to present the side of Parliament. I don't want to speak on behalf of the executive. And that is, yes, there is a task force which was appointed in March last year, 2022, and I am part of that task force. Now, the task force has had, you may not, yes, hear reports about the work of the task force, precisely because of the sensitivity of the issues which we have been dealing with. Firstly, we've had to sit several meetings to strategize on what it is that we want to communicate to the members of Parliament. Remember, ours is to deal in the main with members of the two parliaments. We believe that if we are to narrow the gap between the two parliaments and assist the members of Parliament to get to a point where they are able to influence their governments, I think we shall have succeeded. Decisions of going to war will always be taken by governments, heads of state in particular. They will deploy the soldiers. However, they equally have an obligation to report to their legislatures, to the members of Parliament, about 1, the expenditure, 2, the forces on the ground, in other words, the boots, the numbers in terms of boots on the ground in those countries. But also they have an obligation to report whether, in fact, they are making efforts to find a resolution of that conflict. So our task as this team has been to engage with the two groups, the Ukrainian Parliament and the Russian. And I must say we've done that. I can safely say we are at, who are the people who are helping me? 14th meeting, the last one, which was the 14th. We meet on a regular basis. Our next meeting will be in 2 weeks' time before we go to the IPU in Angola. Of course, most of the meetings are on a virtual platform. But what you will find interesting is this, that this task force has been to Ukraine. This task force has been to Russia. We spent 2 days in Ukraine, we spent 2 days in Russia, and we spent a day in Poland. Why Poland? Because when you are on your way to Ukraine, there is no way, the only way to get there will be to go via Poland. So it was important for us to get an understanding from the Polish members of Parliament as to what their perspective is of what is happening and what they suggest we should do. I can assure you that all members of Parliament who are part of the IPU, the interest is to make sure that the two parliaments talk. Because we believe once they talk, they'll be able to influence their governments. Because war never solves a problem. But not only that, of course, as you know, colleagues, you do have generally in the world warmongers. People who do not see the reason to drive a peaceful process to a resolution of a challenge. No. You do have mongerers, those who will say every day, I have A, I can give you B, I can give you C in order to intensify the war. But the position of the task force and the position of the IPU has always been that number one will be to bring these groupings together, let them talk. By the way, we've made an effort. Besides the many meetings we've had separately with them, in one of the meetings in Bahrain, I think Bahrain, we tried to bring the two groups under, because that's what we're working for now, not to talk to them separately. The intention now is to bring them under the same roof and engage and understand where the issues are. But also it is important for all of us to appreciate that the Ukrainian-Russian conflict is a conflict which stems back to 9-10 years ago. But of course now people are rushing and all of us are, continue, you fight, we'll give you this, no, continue. But the people who are destroyed in the process are the ordinary citizens. We saw the damage which we saw in both countries. We were shown pictures. We visited some of the areas which are affected by these attacks on both sides. We saw people who are affected, who are in wheelchairs, who are maimed, who have no legs and so on, who have no limbs, in both countries. And of course, our view is a very strong one, which is that the world needs an intervention to stop the war in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia. And I must say that we were very happy when the heads of state from the continent, led by our president, took the initiative to move. And our decision and make an intervention, and our decision as a task force was that let's see how it goes and that we will rally around them and give them all the necessary support they need. But not just the support. Remember, when you do this kind of work, there will be bits and pieces of information which you gather, some of which they may not be privy to. So ours is to provide them with information, but also for them to have an appreciation of who are the powerful forces in those countries, including members of parliament, who should be engaged in order for the two countries to find a solution to their conflict. As I step down, you may be aware that there has been an exchange of prisoners. It may not be at a large scale, but may I just inform you that the people who came out with the idea of starting first with an exchange of political prisoners, particularly the soldiers, prisoners of war in a sense, it is the task force. Because we started by saying, because remember, we were dealing with people who are very hostile on both sides, who were extremely suspicious of the task force, because each group believes that, well, you may be supporting that group instead of supporting them. But we made it very clear that we are not in Ukraine and Russia to take sides in their conflict. Ours as members of parliament is to bring together the parliamentarians, is to narrow the gap so that they in turn can influence the budget in their countries, because at the end of it, the people who must pass the budget which you will spend on a war, it is your members of parliament. So we said, let's talk, let's engage. You have the power, and that power which you have, you can use by cutting down or by stopping government from spending its resources on a war, on matters which could have been long resolved. So the exchange of prisoners, I mean, it's not something that's being talked much about, but we pride ourselves as the task force that we were the ones who said, let's start with one small thing, and that is something that will impact positively on the morale of the two nations, on the mothers of the soldiers who were being held prisoners. So there are a whole lot of things. Obviously, there's a process by the heads of state, and I must say that I was personally very excited when the heads of state went there. Because remember, it's a no-flying zone. It's a no-flying zone. So from Poland, you drive for 5 hours to the no man's land, and from there you are on a train the whole night for 15 hours to Ukraine. The same applies going back. It is another 15 hours and another 5 hours driving to Poland. It is a very, very risky exercise, but I'm very proud that our heads of state from the African continent decided that they would be the first ones to undertake that long journey, which is very risky, to a point where you are from point A to the last. You only have soldiers, depending on which part. If you enter Poland, Russia, in Poland, it's the Polish soldiers. If you enter Ukraine, it's the Ukrainian soldiers. If you go to Russia, it is the Russian soldiers, because they too understood and appreciated the risk which we were taking. So I think that we should commend the decision of the heads of state of the African continent. And I would hope that as we go to Angola now in October as the IPU, that with the further discussions that we are engaging in, that we'll be able to advise them on what next to do. Because this thing has been going on for a long time. It has been going on for a long time. The conflict, the tension may continue, but let us remember that at the end of it all, it is civilians who suffer the most. Thank you.